Hello and happy feast of the Assumption of Mary. In lieu of this event and that the Assumption as a dogma, I thought it would be a good idea to discuss what different levels of church teaching are. May this video continue to further enlighten your faith. The word doctrine stems from the Latin word doctrina, which means teaching. Some theological nuances to consider. Tentative statements and theological opinions are not doctrines. All doctrines are authoritative and binding on all the faithful, but not all have been infallibly or definitely revealed. All dogmas are doctrines, but not all doctrines are dogmas. So, what is a tentative statement? A tentative statement is not a teaching, but rather anything that might serve as a prudential recommendation or pastoral consideration. Such statements usually concern Catholic social teaching or the application of such teaching to the political or temporal realm. Such things as the state of the economy, the death penalty, minimum wage laws, etc. The Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith in its document Donum Veritatis, paragraph 24, states the purpose of such statements, quote, in order to serve the people of God as well as possible, in particular by warning them of dangerous opinions which could lead them to error, the magisterium can intervene in questions under discussion which involve, in addition to solid principles, certain contingent and conjectural elements. Furthermore, Cardinal Ratzinger, in his 2004 memorandum, states, quote, there may be a legitimate diversity of opinion even amongst Catholics about waging war and applying the death penalty, but not, however, with regard to abortion and euthanasia. So basically, tentative teachings are not doctrines, and hence, as Catholics, while we owe assent to any act canonical or pastoral that has magisterial weight, as far as its theological content is concerned, we don't specifically owe theological assent, although we should definitely hear such statements as admonitions and exhortations. Next, we go to theological opinions. What is a theological opinion? It is something that may or may not be true, but is based on theological principles and conclusions, such as the limbo of children, that the fires of purgatory is Christ himself, that there are 9 choirs of angels, that Saint Joseph might be a virgin, etc., are all examples. The Church allows the faithful to either believe or not believe in such theological possibility. At last, we get to doctrines. When speaking of actual doctrines, we as Catholics are bound to accept them, but in different ways depending on their mode of revelation. First, we have non-defined doctrines. These are A, teachings taught by the Church but not infallibly defined, such as that bishops and priests are different ranks of holy orders or that Mormon baptisms are invalid, or B, teachings that help aid us to a better understanding of Revelation and which make explicit its contents, or similarly, to recall how some teaching is in conformity with the truths of faith. And lastly, to guard against ideas that are incompatible with these truths. Donum Veritatis, paragraph 23, says the following, quote, when the magisterium, not intending to act definitely, teaches a doctrine to aid a better understanding of Revelation and makes explicit its contents, or to recall how some teaching is in conformity with the truths of faith, or finally, to guard against ideas that are incompatible with these truths, the response called for is that of the religious submission of will and intellect, end quote. The second set of doctrines are infallible teachings defined, but not defined as divinely revealed. What does it mean that a doctrine is defined? To define is, as the Catholic Encyclopedia says, it is an irrevocable decision by which the supreme teaching authority in the Church decides a question appertaining to faith or morals and which bind the whole Church, end quote. 4 conditions are needed to be met in order to define something, which include that 1. It must be made by the supreme teaching authority of the Church, the Pope in union with all the bishops. 2. The decision must concern a doctrine of faith or morals. And 3. The decision must bind the universal Church. Finally, 4th, the decision must be irrevocable, non-changeable. These truths, although not defined as divinely revealed, are to be firmly accepted and held. An example of a defined teaching that is not yet a dogma is in regards to the reservation of the ordination of man to the priesthood. St. John Paul II states in Ordinatio Sacerdotalis that, quote, "Wherefore, in order that all doubt may be removed regarding a matter of great importance, a matter which pertains to the Church's divine constitution itself, in virtue of my ministry of confirming the brethren, I declare that the Church has no authority whatsoever to confirm priestly ordination in women, and that this judgment is to be definitely held by all the Church's faithful." End quote. Such teachings are said to be defined, but not defined as divinely revealed. Finally, we have dogmas. What are dogmas? All dogmas have in common with the infallible doctrines that we just covered that they are defined. This means that the Church has definitely settled the matter and has expounded as to what such a teaching entails. However, in addition to this, a dogma is also defined as divinely revealed. What being defined as divinely revealed entailed is that a dogma must be found explicitly or implicitly in the deposit of faith, that is, either sacred scripture and or sacred tradition, that which the Church has previously stated in, say, a council or another magisterial document or pronouncement. Such teachings include things such as the Trinity, the divinity of Christ, as well as the Assumption and Immaculate Conception of Mary. To such teachings we give not a religious assent, but that of theological faith. Such dogmas usually come about through the exercise of what is known as ex cathedra, which can be exercised either in an encyclical or, as is most often the case, through a convocation of a council, of which there have been specifically 21 of them. The Assumption of Mary, for example, was dogmatized in an encyclical, while many other dogmas came about through councils, such as the Councils of Nicaea, of Florence, or the First Vatican Council. I hope that this exposition helps you to better understand the different levels of church teaching and how doctrines and dogmas are similar to, but at the same time distinct from each other. To recap, tentative statements are like exhortations. They are not infallible, but are meant to be warnings or admonitions that we may not fall into error, such as we covered earlier. Theological opinions are theologically plausible and are based on theological principles and conclusions. Not defined teachings are teachings that are authoritative, but which the Church has not yet expounded on. We are bound to give a religious assent of mind and will. Defined doctrines not yet divinely revealed are teachings which the Church has definitely settled, although she has not explicitly stated whether such a teaching is explicitly found in such or such scriptural text or sacred tradition. Finally, dogmas, which are teachings which both have been defined as well as divinely revealed. God bless you, and may you have a great day.